It may be a little bit corny, but I'm going to start this out with a quote from Tolstoy.
That's okay.
Where, he said, of course, the famous line, every happy family is alike, or all happy families are alike, every unhappy family is unhappy in its own way.
Yeah.
And I wanted to start off asking you, Michael, was there a particular, sad, unhappy, unique element to Tolstoy's story that first grabbed your attention?
Well, actually, it's I guess for a long time on the screenplay and at the beginning of the movie in the early cuts, that quote was at the front of it. But I mean, as I continued to work on it, and I think through the whole process, what it was for me was coming to understand that I really was making a film about marriage, about the tragicomedy of marriage, about the difficulty of living with love and the impossibility of living without love, and that's what I wanted to do. So I guess really just, I mean, what impressed me was the extraordinary love that had been between these two people in their marriage in the early part of, as Tolstoy says, I felt, what did he say? There was a quote. He says something about the early years of his marriage, feeling not guilty, but frightened that he was as happy as he was, as if something was going to happen. He was waiting for the other shoe to drop. And it really did drop in a pretty major way. And so I suppose that's what I was intrigued by, was just, kind of where does love go?
And the film is based on a book, which in turn is based on a number of diaries and journals from people involved. But you originally read the book, I read back in 1990 when it first came out?
I read it in 1990, and I loved it, but I didn't see what the film was. And then in 2004, I reread it and saw it immediately. And I think that the only thing that mattered was that I'd been married for 12 of the intervening 14 years. And actually that's how and so I recognized a different film. It was like, I mean, Virginia Woolf has this great quote where she says, if a person read Hamlet every year of their life and wrote down their notes at the end of their life, they would have written their autobiography. And I guess I probably feel that way a little about The Last Station, that probably any year I would have read it, there would have been some things that I would have seen that were relevant to myself, but eventually it sort of culminated in being the story about marriage.
And
all really big, when I say marriage, I just mean those relationships that feel like marriages. Yeah. Just to say.
And, being a true story based on a book, I was recently at another screening talking to Richard Linklater about his film about Orson Welles. Mm-hmm. There's a character where everyone kind of has their idea in their head about Orson Welles.
Yeah.
Here with Tolstoy, everyone knows the name. I would hazard to guess a lot of people don't have a lot of knowledge about the actual story and the actual man. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering, does that free you up a little bit? Telling a true story that not a lot of people know the intimate details about, or do you feel more of a responsibility because you'll be the person telling this story, sharing the story for the first time with so much of the audience?
I don't know. I wasn't very interested in making a biographical movie. I was just interested in like I said, what the movie was about thematically, and I was very interested in trying to find this tragicomic tone. I was, there were certain facts that I was eccentrically attached to, and other facts that I found it completely easy to dismiss. It seemed really arbitrary when I look back on it. For example, the biggest one was, Bulgakov, Valentin did not actually go to the train station. And so for a long time, the third act of the movie was when Sophia went to the train station, Valentin went to Moscow to find Masha. Of course, Valentin didn't go to Moscow either, but that didn't bother me. Just, and finally, we just didn't have enough money to do Moscow, and I had to cut a week from the schedule. And so the movie ended up getting a lot better. It got a lot better because I actually decided that the truth was more important than the facts in a way, and sending him there, because I think now if I'd done that and that character hadn't actually participated in the main action, that would have been an eccentric and probably really unsuccessful choice. So Tolstoy would appreciate the fact that I was sort of saved by poverty.
Production forces you to make some great choices.
Yeah, that's true. That's often true.